continue our meeting.
You're doing good.
I'm going to get you back so you can get with the kiddos.
Tape's rolling.
Tape's rolling. All right.
Take two.
So we're through item 11. Item 12 is the 2019 tax levy request. I guess we're looking at the 211,000 plus. Is there a motion?
A motion to approve that levy for 2020.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Discussion.
Why are we taking the maximum? Why are we raising it?
Well, that's what his motion was, to raise it.
Right, but I don't think anybody read that we're taking the maximum amount more than we're taking this year. Because even with the amount we took this year, when it went up, what was the total dollar figure, Dan? Would it end up being like 203, 204?
Okay, last year we were allowed to take about 249, and we took 200,000.
Right, we lowered it.
So this year is the first year with... Yeah.
So we're starting at 200,000 with CPI and growth.
Right, but we don't have to take the maximum.
Yeah.
So what was the amount we actually received when we requested 200,000? Because we do get more when property taxes, valuations go up, and new structures are built.
They're pretty. It comes out pretty close.
It's usually
They're
within
pretty
3% or so.
I'd say even closer than that. I don't recall though last year what.
No, like what have we gotten this year so far? What have we gotten, and what are we expected to get still?
Okay.
That the state auditors said. Because the projected base was 200, but that's not what we're actually getting.
So, revenue received today, this is what we have.
Right, and then how much are we expected still to get from the
Well,
state?
just the difference between these two is the only thing we have to go by.
It's
There are no updates from the state.
so just as the checks come in,
Yeah.
and they're not even, they're as people pay taxes, correct?
And sometimes it may be for previous years, it may take a while, so it's not going to be exact, but it's going to be close.
Mr. Chairman, just to I guess put a rationale behind my motion to approve that tax levy of 241, whatever it was. Is number one, we just built our budget on it, and if you recall,
Right, which is why you're supposed to do the levy before the
if you
budget.
recall our funds remaining after administrative expenses, they were down to around $119,000. And in our conversations in past meetings, we had at least some planned anticipation for expenditures that would probably, exceed that amount, which would mean, we'd either go into our reserves. But we also had some discussions about, some exciting things going forward. So I don't think it's a big burden on people if they know that we're trying to do, good things, to have a small increase in the tax levy. I, as a taxpayer, pay about $10 a year on my place. If this board does things that is going to benefit the water quality in our district, I'm good for $10 a year. I'm good for $20 a year.
Nathan?
I guess I would provide a counter argument to that. It's fine that we can sit up here and classify the stuff that we do as good things. Others may not see it as good things. They might see it as just a waste of money. They don't want to spend money on the things that we think are good things. They may have better things to spend their money on. So, what's going on, Dan?
You runner, who's the second one?
I'll say here.
Who seconded the motion? It was Tom.
So from my perspective, we've got plenty of money in reserve. I guess I would rather side on the side of the taxpayer. And if I was, and I am a taxpayer, but if I were a potential member of the audience sitting here watching what's going on and listening, seeing that we've got all kinds of money in the bank right now, and we're asking for the maximum amount without an opt-out, again, I'd be wondering why. Why are you doing that? I'd rather keep my money and spend it the way that I think is appropriate. There's nothing preventing anybody, any of the taxpayers here, if they want to voluntarily contribute to these projects that we think are wonderful, to do that, rather than us taking it from them. So I would propose that I would offer up a substitute motion that we reduce it to $200,000, keep it the same as what we had.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by one of you two guys. Who's first? James? Okay, motion on the floor is to reduce it from original motion to 200,000.
Discussion, all right?
Discussion. Dan had his hand up.
So a question, if we reduce the amount, that basically reduces our base, and every year you continue, if you reduce, you've reduced your base.
Our base is at 200 now. We wouldn't be reducing anything.
Well, our base is 211.
No, our base is 200.
Well,
We're taking the max, we're actually increasing our base.
Did you have, go ahead.
But what's our surplus right now, Dan?
Cash reserves.
Yep, cash reserves right now.
Almost $500,498,000.
So we have 2 years worth of revenue more than in the bank, and you feel the need to raise somebody's taxes? Can I tell you how many houses that Pennington County forecloses on a year for back taxes? Do you want to tell these elderly folks that you feel great about raising their taxes? Because I certainly wouldn't want to go down to the Minnesota Center and tell them that, hey, we're going to raise your taxes 10%. But don't worry, we don't have an earmark for it yet, but we're going to find one. Because that's what you're saying.
Dan?
I don't think my question was answered. My understanding was that the maximum allowable previous to this had been something in the vicinity of 249,000. Was that correct?
240 last year.
229.
Last year.
229. So
Have we
maybe the
reduced-
base is the correct term, whatever the term is, but it appears that our allowable taxable amount has decreased because of the action of decreasing it in a previous year. Is that
That's correct.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so, I understand the tax end of it. I now understand that end of it. And, my perspective is some of these things we're talking about, such as trying to mitigate stormwater in Rapid City, perhaps we can find a way that's better than suing the city. And so I'd like to have dollars available to put towards efforts like that. I'm going
We're
to
talking about
support.
sewer lines, not stormwater.
I'm talking about all of it, James.
Well, if you want to go out and dig
Just
city
a second,
sewer lines-
James. Let's not argue back for it. Let Dan finish his comment.
Anyhow, I'm going to support the original motion of Mr. Goff to take the maximum allowable.
And actually, Nathan had his hand up next.
From my perspective, that's a big government perspective. That's somebody thinking that I know how to spend taxpayers' dollars. We, as a group, as a board here, we know how to spend taxpayers' dollars better than taxpayers do. And therefore, we need to gather up as much as we can from taxpayers so that we have all this money and all this power to determine how to spend their money for them. I don't agree with that. I think taxpayers should have the money that they earn available to them to decide as they wish how to spend it. I don't think we should be taking money by force from people to spend it on things that we think are good projects. So it's a fundamental philosophical difference, I guess.
James?
When it comes to city retention ponds and city sewer systems, you want to talk about spending money on water? Why don't you ask the city to do that instead of spending $67 million on a civic center? You could have went to a city council meeting like I did and said, what are you guys thinking? Please fix the water. Please fix the sewer systems. I don't remember seeing any other board members there. When you're saying we need to go help the city fix the retention ponds or the sewer systems now. I was out there, and to tell us we're going to now bill the taxpayers for the city's lack of foresight and fix errors they've made is just ridiculous.
Any other discussion?
I would support Nathan in the $200,000 base, simply because we haven't spent, we spent quite a bit on admin and so forth. That, Dan, could I get you to just bring up that part that talks about what we, and we really don't have a good way of projecting into the future what programs will be accepted, asked for, or any other until we have the $400,000 that you mentioned earlier.
Almost
Is this what
400.
you wanted, or did you want the budget? This is the treasurer's report, so maybe you wanted.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
The $471,000 that were in that line above the yellow on the left-hand side. That one. We haven't even come close to needing that money at all in the last 2 to 3 years that I've been on this board.
That's with the 119 taken out that we haven't even earmarked to spend. So really,
And
it'll
we
be
Just a second.
And we don't know, yes.
600,000.
And we actually don't have a clue at what our 2019 budget is going to give us for this year. Because last year we exceeded it by $10,000, I think. The estimate was for 229, and we got 230 something. Is that right?
What was the question?
And-
So, last year, the levy was 229,
Correct.
and then if you
We got
had, it would have been, I thought it was 249. It would have
Okay.
It's 240 something.
Something like that. So we actually gained $20,000. So I don't really see that, I don't feel like we need to even raise it unless there's some burning need that is provided for each one of us. We have a fairly significant budget, and $200,000 will make that $671 if we just got the $200,000, and it may be higher, and we don't have a clue at what that reduction did. I just want to get this amount of money that we can spend closer to the amount of money that we actually spend, rather than just building a giant base. We don't have his projects.
There's almost $500,000 in the bank, and then we're going to add $200,000 on top of that. We're going to have $600,000 for projects next year, and you're going to tell taxpayers we need to raise their taxes.
Any other discussion?
There's a public comment.
There's a public comment. Oh, okay.
So, with East Dakota Water Development, they have a staff that are able to look into some of these water quantity issues. There is no staff in West River. What would it cost to get staff? And I would argue that the community would be very well served by having someone come to help people, to help address these issues full time. And I think that would be a very good use of public funds. And I think that
So we're losing our house now.
What would it cost to have a staff?
That's
So we
trying to
can
get to
do
there.
projects like that and get more
Dan?
to
Okay,
First off, let me start with East Dakota has a huge tax district. They're not just taxing Sioux Falls. They're taxing, what's your base, like a $1.5 million annual budget or more? What's your tax base, 1.5 million?
Our tax base is 13 billion. Our levy for the current year, not sure, ask, 760.
760,000.
Yeah. Translates into a mill rate, which I think Dan and I were talking earlier is actually a little bit less than yours. We're 2.4 cents a thousand. We've got a bigger footprint, but we've got way more people.
So, when you're asking about staff, Dan is only part-time in the office now. We don't have a full-time office staff. To hire a full-time tech, we have to pay their salary, plus workman's comp, plus all the Social Security, Medicare, whatnot insurance. So let's say the tech costs $60K a year. By the time you add insurance and all the other licenses and fees, Medicare and withholding tax, you're basically taking another half of their salary. So a $60,000 tech really costs you $90K a year. That's before they actually go and do a sample. Because then you have to pay them mileage, we have to have a vehicle, we have to have all the testing equipment, and then we have to send it off to a lab. Now, their tax rate is even less than ours with all the great projects they do. Because they're not just doing Western Pennington County. That'd be the same as us doing Western Pennington County, Custer, Meade, Lawrence, all those counties together. We're not. To get the tax money he's talking about, you'd be talking about tripling or quadrupling our taxes.
Dan,
And-
did you have
Well, I
anything?
just want to make sure everybody understands I'm not staff. We have no staff. We
Well,
have no
contract.
employees.
He's under
I'm
contract.
a contractor, so
Yes, thank you.
I pay all my own stuff.
Are we ready to vote on this?
So I've got a question from Ms. Sieverding. So let's say we could hire staff. What would we have them do?
What would we have to do?
Yeah, what specific activities would staff do?
They can begin by starting to get information out there to the public with some of these different options for stormwater. Have them work with different people on different designs, help consult, provide advice. You can also go and test water quality. There is grant funding available from the DNR to do those sorts of things. I believe I've heard Jay in the past said that, well, the DNR knows we have these capabilities, so they provide assistance for us to do these things. You have to start from somewhere, and a lot of times it starts from having more resources. And I don't think the $11,000 difference is going to be able to hire a person. But ultimately, as Rapid City grows and as we become closer and closer to that different mark for that 100,000 be correct. And as even without legislation, with growth, you are going to have more use of resources. You're going to have fewer resources to go around. There's a lot that has to be addressed. And just even planning, where are we going to be getting these water resources from?
I'm going to follow up to that.
And helping communicate between the city and the water resources and individual homeowners on their problems. That we have advocates.
What do you think we do?
Again, I think I think there's just kind of a fundamental difference in the way we look at things sometimes. I think we've got a very divided country right now. We've got a lot of people that think that government is the solution. The people that I talk to, they're not asking about, man, I wish government could do more for me. I never hear that. Okay, what I hear is, I want government off my back, and I want lower taxes. We're getting taxed to death, and I want my taxes lowered. I don't want to have to pay so much in taxes. Okay, so I'm not hearing, you know, the stuff that you were just talking about, that people want these things. They don't want those things. They kind of want the opposite of those things. They don't want government involvement in their life, and they want lower taxes, because everything they do is taxed. And so this is an effort that we could make while still maintaining our budget, while still growing our, more than likely, our reserve funds in the future, and sending a message that we are supporting our taxpayers to try to give them what they want: lower taxes, less government.
I'd like to have us vote on this. I think we're just going back and forth here. I understand everybody has their own opinion.
Yep.
I certainly do. I'd like to move to vote on this substitute motion to go with the tax levy for 2020 at $200,000. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. Roll call, please.
Okay, this is voting on the 200,000
Yes.
substitute motion. Jovic.
Aye.
Rollinger's not here. Williams.
Aye.
Mack.
Nay.
Bialotta.
Aye.
Harris.
Nay.
Coe.
Nay.
Bierke.
No.
Driscoll.
Oh.
Motion fails.
And then we go back to the original motion for authorization to go to 200,421. 211,421.
One question, comment?
Yep.
Are any of you willing to hear from people that get kicked out of their house this year due to tax foreclosure? Because I'll be more than happy to bring you the list of all the people in Pennington County that are being foreclosed on solely for taxes. Not their insurance, not their mortgage, their property taxes.
Any more comments? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
No.
Nay.
So 3 noes. Let's go to roll call.
Mack.
Aye.
Bialotta.
No.
Harris.
Aye.
Coe.
Aye.
Bierke.
Aye.
Driscoll.
Yes.
Jovic.
Nay.
Rollinger is not here. Williams.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay. That goes to chair's comment. I was just going to quickly, I know, I did have a chance to attend the Pennington County Conservation District meeting on August 1st. First one I've been to, kind of interesting to see what they do. I think if people have a chance to go to one of these meetings. I think they did talk about the listening meeting we had, and it was they were very positive about the fact that they had a chance to attend it, and they learned a lot. And Dan was there at that meeting too. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but anyway, it's interesting what some of these other organizations do in terms of similar stuff that we do. Any items from directors, other directors? Items from an admin.
thought that city meeting on the 30th of July was very interesting, and seeing the trucks that they use for testing the sewer system. And then I'll just mention that lady we granted the $5,000 is having a lot of snags in her project, so we're not sure what's going to happen there. So if she doesn't get that worked out, she may have to come back and renegotiate that with the board.
What kind of snags?
The contractor, who was Grover, submitted a bid for $9,000, and she said, and I'm getting all this from her, she says he underbid it, and he will not honor that bid, and he wants to put in a pumping station and some other changes. So the cost is going up. So in terms of how the board made their decision, I still think the board would probably be conducive to giving her the $5,000 because it was based on a percentage of that bid. That bid's even bigger now, but that's the situation. That she has problems with the neighbor not wanting the construction going on because the trucks will have to go on his land.
Dang,
How about the litigation that she's suing to get the money that we decided to give her anyway?
I'm not sure. I could ask her that if she's pursuing that.
We haven't paid her yet.
I think that was totally improper on our part. She's suing to get the money. We're giving her the money that she's suing to get.
Right. We're not giving her the money. We give it to the contractor once the work is completed.
Indirectly, it's going to her.
Ask a question.
Sure.
Joanne Noy, South Dakota Dealer, was there, again, was the contractor's bid, was it approved by the county or city before he submitted, or she submitted it to you guys? Is
Yeah,
that
the
why?
contractor wrote
She
the bid.
she had a plan, and she got bids for it, which she submitted to us, and before we voted on it.
I may actually, I don't want
Yeah, he probably has it.
But didn't DENR approve that? Didn't she have a letter?
Yeah.
She did, she had,
Yeah.
yes, she did have.
Yeah, so I don't know what
yes.
the new reason is, if it's due to a well proximity. The only reason why I can consider putting in a pump station is that the new rules for septic tanks, with the distance, you can't just bury the line and bury the tank deeper if it has to travel a certain distance.
Well,
It can only go a certain distance.
Well, the issue with that site is it's on a slope. That house is on a slope, and the existing drain field, the septic tank's on the one side, which is kind of flat, and so you're going to have to relocate this basically on the contour, and it's not a simple fix. And that's why it was so much money.
I forgot your question, or this is the bid.
I was just wondering if the bid was approved before she brought that to you guys.
She signed it.
The plan
No,
was
approved by the county or
the plan was approved.
She had a county approved plan.
Yeah, yeah, the plan,
Yeah, so
they
it should
approved
have
that
been-
plan, and then
it
now
should have been approved.
Now it sounds like he wants to change the plan to me, just looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is an approved, contractor.
certified.
Yes, he is.
On this, you go to the site.
Right.
So I don't know his side of the story. I just know he's told.
It's not an easy site to that home. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. Anything else, Dan?
No, thank you.
Any items from the public? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion second by Bob, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Jay, for driving all the way across, helping us with our budget.
Yeah.
I guess I'm more
Simplify the budget.
Yeah, it is a-
And there's an older gentleman.